Oh, my name's Rob McNeilly. I have a medical background. I was in medical family medicine practice in suburban Melbourne for 10 years. And for the last 30 years or so, I've been using hypnosis in a private practice, and over the last 20 years or so, teaching this approach to interested people. And I had the rare privilege of meeting Milton Erickson, getting to know him a little, and being known by him in the latter years of his life. And out of this privilege of having met this fellow, it's been a pleasure to share this work with other people who are interested to find out about it. I first saw him in a video, in a film, in Philadelphia in '76. And I've said a number of times that it was like love at first sight. There was something about seeing this fellow, and the way he treated people like human beings, the way he was interested in people, respectful of people, that really connected with me and what was important to me. And so, having been intrigued by what I saw in this film, I wanted to learn more about what this fellow was up to. So I plucked up my courage and I rang him, expecting to speak to a secretary or some person who could organise something. And Erickson picked up the phone himself. And I said, I'd like to learn from you. And he said, come on over. And he said, when you get here, give me a ring and we can Betty will pick you up from the airport and you can stay in the house. So when I got there, it was quite a long trip, and I was feeling a little tired and sorry for myself. So I rang his home, and he must have heard my patheticness, my victimness in my voice. And he said, well, find your own way here after you booked yourself into a hotel. And I thought, oh, damn. And that was a kind of a rude introduction to one important aspect that I think a lot of people don't realise about this man. That if you were ready to do something, willing to do something, wanting to do something, he would do anything, literally anything, to help. But if you expected him to initiate the activity, if you expected him to be the person that was running the show, then forget it. But I did go and see him. I arrived, I found my way to a hotel and found my way to his house. And that first day, there was a Canadian there who'd been there the previous day. And Erickson asked me what I wanted to learn, and I said that I had some things that I'd learnt in Melbourne that didn't really make sense to me. And he just nodded. And then he turned to the Canadian fellow, Lee, and said, would you mind showing Robert what happened yesterday? And Lee said, well, I was sitting in this chair, listening to what you were saying, and I could see Lee starting to go into hypnosis, and I thought, what's happening here? I'd learned about hypnosis, I'd done a 2-year program, and I thought I knew something. But this was something very weird. But what was happening? Erickson had asked Lee to show me what had happened. And in order for Lee to show me what had happened, he had to recreate for himself the experience of what had happened, and so that experience recreated itself. And in a way that gives a kind of a window into what Erickson was doing. He was not imposing something on anyone, ever, but always wanting to evoke and activate or further something that was already there in someone so that they could then be the initiator, the instigator. They could be the one causing, responsible for their change and their activity. But he was a delight to know, a very funny man. He made sure that he had a good time, in spite of the fact that he had very severe pain from polio as a young fellow. When he was 17 or 18, he nearly died from polio and was left with a lot of residual pain and limitations. But in spite of that, or as he would say, because of that, he learned to enjoy life. And he was very inspiring to be around, to know, and to be known by. And I feel a very real sense of privilege to have had that chance to meet the fellow and learn from him. And I think probably one of the main things, I was a bit of a slow learner with it, but I learned that I don't have to be an expert. The client is the expert. The individual is the expert. They know more about themselves than I can know. They know more about themselves than they even know. And in fact, he said to me one day, when a client comes to see you with a problem, they always bring their solution with them. And they don't know that they bring their solution. So have a very nice time helping that client to find the solution that they brought, that they didn't know that they brought. It's a very different approach from trying to fix someone, as the traditional medical, psychological, psychiatric approach takes. And so that's been an ongoing and evolving, unfolding learning for me, how to, in my own practice, help individuals connect, how to help individuals recognise the potential that they have that they're not in touch with. And then in my teaching, in the same way, to help people wanting to use this work to find their potential, to learn and to be helpful to clients, so that their clients can then learn, connect with their potential, and so live a more fulfilling and a satisfying life. Erickson was very keen on, and very much an appreciator of, the normality of life, the pleasures of ordinary everyday life. Just seeing the grass, watching the birds, seeing flowers grow. It was a real joy for this man. And he was very inspiring. And I was inspired, and many people have been inspired by his down-to-earth, simple, human approach to living, and for that matter, to therapy. And he was, I think, more than any other therapist that I'm aware of, the instigator of a shift in therapy from trying to understand the past as a cause of the present problem towards how do we build a better future. And that's something which I think is becoming more mainstream these days. But he was doing this 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. And I've said in many situations that I think Erickson was a coach. I think what he was doing was what we now call coaching. And when traditionally trained therapists came across his work, they said, what is this man up to? He's from another planet. But in my view, he was not from another planet, he was from this planet. He was down to earth and interested in people and individual people's outcomes, rather than involving in some ivory tower abstraction, theoretical approach. And this caused a lot of concern for traditionally trained therapists who wanted to know, where's your theory? Where's your research? What are you basing this on? But he based his work on his own experience and invited us to honour, to respect, and to sharpen our appreciation of our own experience, rather than relying on some external authority, some external theoretical abstraction of experience. You know, a lot of our culture and our learning is based on explanations and theories. And I don't think it's fully appreciated the revolutionary option that he invited us into. Instead of looking to explain and understand and theorise and then apply that theory, he invited us instead to observe what was happening and respond to that observation, then to observe the response to that and respond to that, and then observe that and respond. So it was observe, respond, rather than theorise and apply. And it's so delicious because, I mean, that is how we live our life. You know, when we learned to walk, we didn't look at the theory of walking. We just took a step and then made some adjustment. Oh, it was too big, or wasn't big enough, too high, not, or what. And then the next time we took a step, we learned that way. So in fact, we've learned most of the important skills that we have by observing and responding. And I think he really made an art form of that, and trusting that capacity to observe, to respond, to then look and see what the response was and respond to that, so that it was very much then, after him, a conversation or a dance between two people rather than two human beings, rather than some expert offering some words of wisdom. So anything that I can say will not in any way do justice to the breadth and depth and richness of what he contributed. But I can say that he had a profound effect on many individuals, and indirectly through those individuals on many, many other individuals, and on most major schools of contemporary psychotherapy, and I would say coaching. So it's a pleasure to have an opportunity to say something about this man, that even though he's been dead now for just over 30 years, his spirit's alive and well, and I would say growing. And it's a pleasure for me to have a chance to speak about this and perhaps generate some interest in other people in his legacy, which is not dead, it's alive and well. So thank you for this opportunity to say just a little about what this man offered.